just finishing up the last track event of the year. Heading up from Thompson Motorsports Park. And really great season with the car. Big changes for today were some new brake pads. I'm running the Ferodo DS1.11s, which are very different than the Ferodo DS2500s that I was running previously. Those pads were pretty exceptional in terms of brake release. I was struggling with these new pads, a little bit of brake release and over slowing a little bit, but in terms of the initial bite and the just absolute stopping power, I was easily quicker, just being able to brake later really with these new pads. And the pedal stayed 100% consistent. It never changed at all. I wouldn't really say that the old pads overheated, but they definitely would lose some just coefficient of friction as they got hotter, and it was reasonably noticeable. You just needed to place more pressure on the pedal to get the car slowed down. That would change like throughout 20-25 half an hour session, whereas the DS11s didn't. And today maybe wasn't the greatest day to really compare, since it was probably got up to maybe 40 degrees, 45, 50 degrees throughout the various sessions. So it was never particularly hot. But turn one at Thompson, min speed is probably somewhere around 35, 40 miles an hour. And you're hitting the brakes at around 110 miles an hour. So there's definitely, I think I hit like 1.3 Gs decelerating on these old Falcons. So definitely putting a lot of energy into the brakes, and felt way more confident braking later there than I ever have. So that was a really big improvement with the car. So happy with that. I also was messing around a little bit with the shocks, where I really kind of found a setting that I liked through the autocross season. I haven't really changed it. Back in New Hampshire a few weeks ago, I was really struggling with corner exit, oversteer, and trying to get the power down. And I tried to loosen, I softened the front rebound slightly to increase the weight transfer to the rear a little bit more. And the car is still oversteering today, but I'm going to attribute that to the track temps and maybe it's me being a little too aggressive with the throttle and these old tires that at this point are like very, very heat cycled out. But I got into the 124s today, which was great. I think in my Spec Miata race of the car in slicks, I got into 125s. So I've gotten this car faster on 200 treadwells than I drive it to work every day. So that's pretty cool. Obviously my driving is way better now. I'm able to push way harder, and I feel way more comfortable at the limit. So that is very different than where I was at with the Spec Miata. So I think there's a little more potential in that car. But I'd be interested to try this car on newer tires and see how much of a difference that makes, and I'll get to find out next summer. I don't think there's any competitors for the Scion FRS as a track car and a dual-purpose daily driver autocross. There's really no other car for under about 15 grand that you can buy pretty much 100% track ready. You can get into maybe some older Mustangs, maybe some older Miatas, like a 350Z, maybe even a really clapped out C5 Corvette. None of these cars are as practical. You know, technically this car has rear seats. I'm putting winter tires on it for this winter. It has a pretty big trunk, especially the seats folded down. I can put a lot of stuff in the back. In theory, you could fit 4 tires to take with you to the track, or take a set of reins, or you know, take more tires with you for a time trial after an HPD, like in a comp style situation. But I'm just driving to the track on my track tires, and I think I'd be pretty tight on space for tools and the chair and all my other stuff. But you know, the whole great part of the 200 treadwear segment is these tires are very streetable. When I drove them today at like 35 degrees, it was a little bit sketchy, but as long as you're not like in torrential downpours, you're going to be just fine. But that's true for any car. But this car, very easy to live with on a daily basis. It's been incredibly reliable. Had a coil pack go out, which is kind of a known issue with these cars. And after I replaced it, I haven't had a further issue. And there is a way to upgrade to later updated coil packs, which if I have more issues, maybe I'll think about doing at some point. But it really just hasn't been an issue. And this car is lowered and it's on stiffer springs than it would be stock. And it's on probably slightly harsher Coney dampers that I live with on full soft, and then stiffen them slightly for the track. But the car is very, very livable, especially on snow tires. Makes a big difference on the ride quality. But there's really not any competitors, in my opinion. There's nothing that you can fit a bunch of stuff in, go away for the weekend, you know, actually take people with you or take things with you, where, you know, any Miata is not going to be able to do that. And, you know, on track, this car is incredible. I really have to say the nose is just so pointy and so responsive. For, you know, for track cars, relatively heavy compared to, you know, if you compare it to a Miata, it could be 500 pounds heavier than a comparable Miata, but it just handles so well. You know, the people always complain about the FA20 and how gutless it is. You know, when you're on track, you're always above, you know, 4,500, 5,000 RPMs. You know, the torque dip is below that, and it just really isn't that much of a problem. I really, I have fun with how fast this car is, how powerful it is, and it's certainly not thrilling in a straight line, but it's not slow, in my opinion either. Like it definitely will power oversteer on exit. And yeah, so it's not like it's just a boring car to drive because of its power. It's pretty fun. Really, the next thing I just wanted to briefly talk about my plans kind of for the future with this car. And I really think the only things that I'm going to be doing to it next summer are, you know, definitely going to do an alignment. It definitely needs more rear camber, and maybe more rear toe. I'll see where the specs are now, but it probably needs more rear toe and more rear camber. It just doesn't feel like it has enough rear grip. And then moving to the RT660 pluses for autocross should be a pretty big step up in terms of performance in SSC. And then I think I'm going to step down to the Continental ECF for comm and time trial stuff. And I really think that's going to be a better spot for me to live in T40, where the T50 cars are pretty fast and a lot lighter and running much bigger tires and wheels, which is just hard to compete with. But I think stepping down to T40, I'll be in a reasonably competitive spot. I think I'll be able to like fight for podiums in T40 at tracks that I know, and I think this car will be pretty competitive against, you know, like the NB, NA Miatas. It should be a lot faster in a straight line, and it's just heavy. I mean, it's like 800 pounds with me in it, heavier than I think some of the T40 Miatas, but I think the power and, you know, its setup should be able to get me reasonably close to some of the better guys in that class, so we'll see how that goes. And finally, we'll see where things end up, but there's Time Trial Nationals in Texas at Eagles Canyon Raceway, I believe, in October. And my final goal is really to make it out there for that, run the car in S5 SSC trim, and see what I can do. That track has like infinite runoff essentially, and I really think I'll just be able to absolutely go for it out there, where a lot of the tracks around here I'm not able to just send it as hard as I'd like to. Really, I could have to reel things back because there's a lot of walls at most of the tracks in New England, but yeah, we'll see what happens. But I think with a lot of practice and, you know, with the goal of going to more events next year, you know, I think it would be really cool to try to podium in S5 at Time Trial Nationals. I think that's really my cumulative goal for the end of the summer next year, and see if I can get there. I think the car is capable of it, and I think I'm capable of it with enough practice and learning how to drive on road courses more. And yeah, but I'm excited to see where things go. I'm just gonna wrap up and gonna post, I think, like the whole last session from the mass tuning event today. I had a really great battle with a GT3 Porsche, and I couldn't really shake them, but it was a great time, and I was way off pace because the track cooled off, and I was nowhere near on pace where I was in the third session, but still a ton of fun, and I think there's some fun watching it. That car's pretty loose, so it was definitely a lot of fun. So enjoy, and yeah, I'll hopefully have more content in the spring.